Thank you for staying with us this Saturday morning. Problematic content online is what we're going to be looking at next. And what does that mean? I know that you get all kinds of things online. People are phishing, there are scams, all sorts. I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just go online. They're all there. But some of them are not exactly desirable. And we shall be getting an insight into this in a moment. Once I have introduced our guest, who is the Executive Director, Nigeria Network of NGOs, Oluseyi Oyebisi, who joins us from our studio in Abuja. Good morning. Mr. Oyebisi, are you there? I can see you, but I can't hear you. Good morning. I cannot hear Mr. Oyebisi. Good morning, Mr. Oyebisi.
Good morning.
Finally. Finally, there you are.
Excellent.
Yes, I was just saying that there are all kinds of things online. The good is there, the bad is there, the ugly is there. And now we're talking about problematic content. Mr. Oyebisi, what is problematic content as far as you are concerned?
Well, problematic content are those contents that you find online that are not in line with what society approves, and also could lead to what we call bad behavior online.
Bad behavior.
They could be in form of hate speech, they could be in form of harassment, they could be in form of belittling others, they could be in form of offensive words, slur words, and we have many of them happening across social media platforms now. So that's why we've said they are problematic content, to be able to distinguish them from content that are beneficial and that are useful to the general public.
Is disinformation part of this problematic content? Both disinformation and misinformation?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we also have others like fake news, like deep fakes, all right? We also have hate on politicians also happening at the moment. You have child sexual abuse happening. You're also seeing nudity and all of those on social media platforms. Plus also issues around fake accounts, all right, that is growing, and also misrepresentation.
Mr. Oyebisi, please, I know that you must be a guru at this, but recall that you're talking to us mere mortals. You just used the word now, clickbait. What's that? Mr. Oyebisi?
Hello? Yes. Can you go over that?
Yes, I said, remember that you're talking to mere mortals. You just used the word now, the meaning of which I don't know. So I don't know about the viewers. What is clickbait?
Okay, a layman analysis of clickbait would be that there's an online link that is sent to you, but that mirrors an organization or a brand that you already know. Or it could tell you that if you click this, you would have access to be able to win money or something. You would have access to a reward. Whereas the intent actually is for you to be able to click that link for you to get elsewhere. It could be to watch porn. It could be to have access to your data. It could be to also scam you, as it were. So in a layman, language, that is, what you get by clicking that. So it's a bait. Something is attached to it as a reward, as a bait for you to click it. Then once you access it, those at the back end are able to get whatever they need from you.
Wow. Mr. Oyebisi, now tell us how it is that brands get scammed, and I'm using the word scammed very loosely, via problematic content online.
So, for example, let's take Channels TV, for instance. You find that there are some investments online now that would use Channel's brand identity for unsuspecting public to come over and invest. You know, when you see Channel's logo there, you have some level of trust and some level of credibility that this might be something that, you know, is genuine. And then you then find out that at the end of the day, this is actually not the true picture of things. What this then means is that it puts a pressure on Channels TV itself to be able to quickly arrest this issue such that its own brand is not used in defrauding people, as it were, or unsuspecting public. And when you put it on a scale, there's a research I got involved in. CNN, BBC, and Channels are some of the media brands that are used to, you know, deceive unsuspecting public around some of these investment scams. What this then means is that, you know, whether you like it or not, it puts a pressure on your own IT system or your own IT unit to now start looking at where is our brand being used negatively, and how do we quickly flag this and report this to social media platforms?
Yes. So how can a brand do that? I mean, one has to keep a close tab on, I mean, you can't keep a close tab on everything online.
Yes, you can't, but again, from experience, what we've seen, and this is why we keep saying problematic content is not, it's a complex issue. And it's an issue where we need a multi-stakeholder process or multi-stakeholder platform to address. Because you're also looking at those content and linking it to issues around freedom of expression and also privacy. And this then means that we must be able to identify the problem, define the problem commonly, look at a way where we can jointly address it. For a brand to ensure that its brand identity, I mean, look at what the DG, Corporate Commission, just said, that when there's traffic around a book, there will be piracy around that.
Of course.
So when there's traffic around a brand, you are already expecting that there will be some misinformation. There will be probably fake news around those bits. There would also be misrepresentation. There will be fake accounts created. So you have to find a way of ensuring that you can quickly flag that to the social media platform, who, by the way, have what we call community standards, and that everyone using their platform must have read, understood, and translate into how they become civil online. But we're not seeing this happening, and it's a complex problem. And I've said that we have to find that balance between protecting speech, which will be expression, and also ensuring we have that balance with also managing privacy online. So you then have to put resources. And this is why it becomes important for everybody to play their role, the media, government, civil society, citizens themselves, platforms, the legislature, all coming together, because it's a problem that we all must face and face jointly. Look at, you've created a social media platform for you to reach your audience. Now this platform is being used for something else. Then it puts a strain on your resources to start defending your brand, right? But how can we all come together and find a common solution that respects rights to expression and that respects rights to privacy, but that helps us to deal with what we have called the problematic content?
Mr. Oyebisi, I should be asking you that question. So how can we do that? Because there is so much online. I mean, a case in point, for instance, is, you know, you remember during COVID, when there was that, I don't know whether to call it disinformation or misinformation about 5G causing COVID and all that. I mean, and that went rife. It was trending all over the world at one time, and some people actually had to delay the rollout of 5G because of that information online. So how is it that we ourselves can begin to shield ourselves from some of this mis- and disinformation that goes around on the internet?
Absolutely. We should understand that misinformation, which will be false news in layman language, and disinformation, which will be propaganda, they are things that we have amongst us before the advent of social media. They are human nature, right? What has only happened is that Facebook has helped us to be able to connect more properly, and we've seen an increase in this kind of harmful behavior that has existed before now. It is now to say that you notice that when we start having disinformation, misinformation, we then brought fact-checking, all right? You have to ensure that you fact-check before you publish, or ensure that that information can be confirmed before you forward, all right? In a population of humans, there will be people that would there will be mischief makers, all right? But how do we create a system where before that information goes too viral, we are able to quickly address it by bringing out the fact? And in civil society, we've always said, if the truth is out, you are proactively disclosing the truth. It would be a bit hard for someone to provide alternative information, okay? So if you're open with information, you're transparent with information, then we could find a way of addressing some of these issues around misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. It doesn't mean that they won't happen, because people will still manipulate whatever information or whatever truth you've put on the table. However, we would have addressed it to some extent. And the 5G example you cited, you would notice that, we had a lot of scientists writing about 5G. We had a lot of researches being done that could help dispel those thinking and those facts around 5G. And it's good that we've gotten to a stage where we've all understood what 5G means, and we can progress and advance in that regards. But the role of the media in that also was very critical. The role of research, the role of fact and fact-checking, the role of evidence, and the role of the regulators also coming out to say this is what 5G means, this is what the implication would be. Quickly dispelling that meant a lot to how we've been able to get here on that balance.
Mr. Oyebisi, you mentioned something about fact-checking. How does one fact-check a material that is online? So there are traditional processes that we have before now in fact-checking. I do know that before now, a news outlet would not publish a news or an article without putting a call through to whoever is being quoted. And when you're not even able to reach that person, there's a clause that says at the time of publishing this, we were not able to get a response from the person that has been quoted. That helps to put on a balance that we've not been able to fact-check this, and we can't tell you 110% that this is the truth. So in terms of fact-checking, is to say that, yes, what are people saying about this? What research exists elsewhere about this? What else do I know? What is my own reasoning telling me? What does logic tell me about this story? And before I share, can I confirm, beat my chest to say that if I share this information, it speaks, one, to my values, it speaks to what I know, it speaks to logic, it speaks to reason, and it speaks to other evidence that are out there that can justify whether this is the truth or whether it's fake news. So fact-checking itself is a process, all right, which is also time-consuming and requires a lot of investment. And that's why if those making use of social media platforms would be responsible at first to read the community standards and ensure that before they forward, they have thought about that information logically, reasonably, and they themselves can say, after sending it, I can defend it.
then we would be in a situation where we would have reduced problematic content to some extent.
These are political times, if you know what I mean, and we shall be seeing more than usual a lot of propaganda, most of which we're going to be getting online because we're heading towards an election year. Is there any way that we can reduce the access of problematic material to us, or shield ourselves from receiving a lot of those things, especially at this time?
Yes, I think most social media platforms have a way where you can decide to set some parameters on your page,
Okay.
to decide which political ad you want to see.
Okay.
That's to help you maintain your sanity. The other is the steps some of them have also taken further to ensure that when an ad is placed on their platform, you put a rider that says you know about it and you're endorsing those kind of ads. But I think majority of, we should understand, all right, that our politics is ridden with propaganda. So it is not the platforms that is or are the problem, all right? The problem itself is with how we play the game and how much we have used to using propaganda. So the chances are we would see many of these playing out. And if those players within the political system do not self-regulate, then it becomes difficult. And we're already seeing that, from deepfakes to fake news, and we anticipate that it would continue as we get into the heat of the game. But to maintain your sanity as a social media user, yes, you can set your settings to what you can see. There's the need for us also to now self-regulate, those playing within that space to self-regulate. Plus also the need for fact-checking, as it were. And fact-checking can be played, it's a role that needs to be played by political parties, it's a role that needs to be played by the media, it's a role that needs to be played by civil society, and also the social media platforms themselves. Like we saw with the American elections, when, if you're talking about the elections in America around that period, there's a way that the platforms will flag and tell you this is fake news, this has been dispelled, this is disinformation. We're hoping that we can work with social media platforms also to be able to quickly do that, such that when those come online, they are able to tell you, no, this is fake news, this has been dispelled as a rumor, this has been labeled misinformation, and that helps to educate the public.
Does bullying classify as problematic material online?
Bullying would be harmful behavior.
I'm thinking
online.
about
So
young people now, because they are on the internet. I mean, all their waking hours, they seem to be on the internet. And we have heard of children who, as a result of bullying online, have actually killed themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why we're saying that we have a complex problem at hand that do not require a simple solution. For example, when you look at online bullying, there's a role of policy in being able to address that. There's a role of legislation. There's a role of the justice system to look at, how do we provide succor, getting the right legal reprieve. There's a role of victim support, where whoever has been bullied online will be supported and also empowered to be able to face the future. There's a role of technology itself, where we're working with social media platforms to ensure that we can quickly arrest issues of bullying online. There's the societal bit of it, where society itself is taking responsibility for what they post online and how they use social media. Then inside, we're looking at and create conflict, violence, it can create harmful behaviors, and we find ways to address that. So it's a holistic approach that requires all of society. And that's why I keep mentioning that multi-stakeholder approach to this. We can't leave it to government alone. Like they say on the streets, all of us are chopping the breakfast. Each sector even citizens, all have issues with what we term problematic content or harmful behavior online. And we must address that. But in addressing this, the emphasis is that we're not using it to muffle expression or to attack privacy of citizens online.
Is there any way that parents can monitor and shut out the kind of materials that their children receive so that the children are not exposed to bullying? Is that possible at all?
Yes, it is possible, but I'll tell you what. Behind majority of trends on social media platforms are problematic contents that are hidden behind those trends. And research from the work I'm doing has shown that if something is trending on a particular social media platform, the chances are you will see problematic content around pornography, child pornography happening there, or bullying or trolling. So whether you have done your best as a parent to block off some parts, the innocent child might just be looking at what is trending and following conversations. And you're scrolling, then you get into what is problematic content. Then you scroll further down, it's bullying. You scroll further down, it's harassment. So these days, you're not even sure anymore. The space is becoming toxic for even both adults and children. And that's why we need to quickly find mechanisms for addressing this in ways that bring sanity and civility to the use of that space as it were. But again, the emphasis is that we target problematic content and harmful behavior using the metrics that I've provided as to what role does policy play here, what role does legislation play here, what role does the justice system play here, what role would victim support and empowerment play, what role would the society itself play, parental controls, media providing national and education awareness programs that can help us address many of these things. The role of research, and that has to be done within a multi-stakeholder process that includes social media platforms themselves, include government, include civil society, include citizens themselves, include the media, include the academia, because of the insight and the research we need to start generating for us to be able to properly address and situate this.
Oyebisi, from what you have said, I mean, the easy solution is just don't let your children go online. But that is impossible.
So now you are restricting their space. What's the difference between yourself and whoever has banned Twitter? So you want to quickly find a simple solution to a complex problem. Do not let them go to the internet. But we live in a 21st century where majority of the things you do are internet-based, right?
Yes, yes.
Artificial intelligence, learning online, mind wide open, critical thinking, all of these are products that you can really get when you get online. Your research, further thinking, and all of that can be gotten online. So online itself is not a problem, all right? It's the humans that are using it for problematic content and harmful behavior. So when you say your child should not go online, your child then finishes university, and at the end of the day, he or she is not able to attach a document. He or she is not able to send an email. He or she is not able to get on social media and be able to interact and send his thoughts across the world or be able to market his products, all right? We would have to find a balance between the use and also some of the problems that we have now.
Exactly.
And it's very easy to say, let's just ban and let's just say children should not go online. But then we're not producing, we won't be producing children or a population that is educated and that is able to interact. We live in a global economy. And how we connect ourselves is through the internet. So we have to find a way of addressing problematic content and harmful behavior online.
Is problematic content more problematic for adults or for children?
It's problematic for all of us. Problematic for children, problematic for adults, problematic for government, problematic for civil society, problematic for media, problematic for all of us as humans. So, and that's why all of us must see it as a problem that needs to be addressed. And in addressing it, find that balance between addressing the problem and not muffling freedom to express my thoughts and my opinions,
Yes.
and not also attacking my privacy.
Let's look briefly at the issue of fake news. Well, we were talking about disinformation and misinformation at the beginning, and I think some of that is fake news. Am I correct? Fake news
so fake
falls
news
into...
comes with a different layer.
Yeah.
The layer is that information is produced and it mirrors what you would see in mainstream media. All right? So it's like someone saying a caption, all right, that mirrors how Channels Television, for instance, would write its headlines. Whereas everything that comes into it, it's all fake. I do not know, again, just to situate it, in Yoruba language, there's something we call Iroyin Eleje. All right?
Oh, dear.
We know it's lies. But this has been what we do before the advent of social media. So again, just trying to balance it, that some of these things have been with us. Social media is just that platform where we've been able to escalate it. So fake news, it's deliberate, it is manipulative, and it is developed in line with what you would see in mainstream media. So you probably might not be able to differentiate at times, except someone comes out to tell you the truth. And sometimes truth can be relative.
Well, there was some legislation going on at one time in this country about how to punish those who disseminate fake news. What are your thoughts about that? Is it a good step to take?
I think, note that this problem is a global phenomenon. And we're seeing governments across the world addressing this problem the way they see fit, all right, especially bringing up legislation. So the legislation you find in Nigeria trying to address this, while there has to be a response along that line. I recall that when I was mentioning the processes that we need to use in addressing this, I'd said policy and legislation is one role. But that policy and legislation has to come from understanding what the problem is. And we commonly define it together. So the media has got its own problem around fake news, brand identity, what do we call it now? Cloning your accounts, all right? Fake accounts. As citizens, we have problems around trolling, child pornography, nudity. As government, there's hate on politicians. There's the issue of fake news also when it comes to government information. As the private sector, there's your brand identity being stolen and used in investment scams and all of that. As citizens also, we have problems about around your privacy being attacked. All of these problems would have to be brought to the table. Then we all think together as to what law, what phrases, what language would help us understand how best to address this, knowing fully well that language and context also matters in many of the problematic content that we see and find online. So you might, as I'm talking to you now, we have about over 250 languages in Nigeria. I may be speaking English and interject with one of those languages that you do not know, but I may have used a derogatory or slur word.
Yes.
Then maybe after 4 days is when someone will tell you when Mr. Oyebisi was talking, that word he used shouldn't have been used on live TV.
Yes.
All right? Or on the media at all. So we have that problem also with online social media platforms being able to pick some of those dynamics around language, context, and culture, which then makes it difficult for them to be able to quickly address some of this problematic content. So we have to see all of that also from a legislative and policy process.
Yeah.
So the laws, while we will need them, they should be fitting in addressing the challenges. And that's why I kept saying that it's a complex problem that has to be balanced in ways that ensures that government can still do social listening. Social listening meaning that I can still vent my expression at whatever the system looks like now
Yeah.
in a civil manner.
Yeah.
And that when the law comes out, it doesn't deny me of that right to express myself about government policies or about government activities. But rather, that law looks at these problems that you and I have around pornography, hate online, sexual abuse, child pornography, and many of them.
Mr. Oyebisi, now in closing, just one sentence, please. Can you please advise our viewers what they can do about problematic content and how they can prevent themselves from being scammed and lied to?
I think if you find it not to be true, just walk away. Get on your social media platform and read the settings as to how you can prevent yourself from problematic or harmful behavior. Take social media breaks, and also, as much as possible, be responsible. Read the community standards that each of these social media platforms have, and ensure that you abide by them.
Thank you very much. Executive Director, Nigeria Network of NGOs, Mr. Oluseyi Oyebisi. Thank you very much for coming to shed some light on this for us this morning. Sunrise will be right back. Stay with us.